Okay, we are being recorded. No more cuss words now, Lena and Debbie. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us. And we really don't have a set agenda this morning. There are some things I wanted to share about some upcoming grants. And then also I did some analysis on funding that our county has received relative to other counties. And I can share that in a little bit here, but yeah, we're working with, the EDC is working with the Center of Inclusive Entrepreneurship, and I see we've got two of those folks on the line with us this morning, Mike Skinner and Rick Dickinson. And specifically, Micah Jonette, that works for them, is going to be helping people apply for grants for people that are in lower income threshold levels. So I'm just about to make that go live, but what I've been dealing with and trying to get approval so that we wouldn't have to do is they want these businesses that are micro enterprises, so 5 employees or fewer, including the owner, and people that don't, make 80% or less of the area median income based on their household size, to provide all sorts of documentation to include a DUNS number. So for those of you that work with
business, clarify who they is, Colleen. That's not us.
What's that?
Please clarify that the they that needs all that is not us.
Yeah, we're not requiring it. The state's requiring it, and I've been trying to, I've been saying, well, we're not going to require that unless you can show me in the law where it is required. And I haven't been successful with that approach, but I've tried anyway. And we're going to have the application out shortly, and also in Spanish, and and it'll be grants. The average will be about $4,000, so not really big, but people will also receive free business counseling with the Center for Inclusive Entrepreneurship. So I'm hoping to get that rolled out by this evening. Or actually, it won't be this evening. It'll be tomorrow. And then the other is I just signed the contract for another $145,000 for grant funding for businesses. But if a business has received grant funds in the past, they will not be, we're looking at those that have not received any yet, anything over $1,000. And we're going to review those applications first, and if there's money remaining, then we'll look at other applications. So that will roll out this week. Just about finished with doing that as well. So that's kind of my update. We've had a lot of questions also about the unemployment, the $300. So they haven't received approval yet, so they haven't done any funding of that, but it's for those weeks, the end July 26th, and then the 8th, August 8th and August 15th. And so if people apply for unemployment during those weeks, then they would receive and they qualify, then they would receive an additional $300 for those 3 weeks. It's not too late if you haven't applied for those at this point. You can do it now, because I think they give 3 or 4 weeks before it's been too long, and so but you need to apply for unemployment for those weeks. And I don't know if any of you are clear on if you are a small business owner and so therefore able to apply under pandemic unemployment assistance, can you receive the $300? I'm not clear on that.
They're still showing on the website, the PUA, you have a claim to file, you know, for the people that were the sole proprietors. And I haven't heard back other than with the history with my son as an employee, as of 8/1, they cut his claim off because they said he had reached his maximum 13 weeks. So, and then he couldn't even access the portal to sign on and find out what was going on. So had to reset a whole bunch of stuff, but they put him on an 11-week extension for his unemployment. And they've paid him for those 2 weeks those 3 weeks that you're talking about,
Okay.
based on his old unemployment rate that started back in March, the first week he drew before the pandemic.
So Debbie, was he an employee?
He was an employee and was furloughed and they did not call him back. They cut staff and did not call everybody back.
So shouldn't it have been that he received 26 weeks with an additional 13?
Well, that's what I thought too, but I haven't gone back to research it yet. You know, I just helped him, you know, get through the hassle of being able to get back onto the website again so he could file his claim. But he's got a job interview on Thursday, so
Yeah, that
you don't have
sounds
to hassle with
definitely,
it anymore.
that definitely sounds weird that it was only a 13-week. So
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I
hopefully he
printed out
gets the job.
everything on him.
Mm-hmm.
I learned it, so.
Colleen, for the grant that you were referring to, how is that? I have one client who there was a hiccup with the PPP, so it didn't come through. But this particular person is a 1099 contractor that doesn't really have any expenses. So they get paid by in the form of a 1099, but don't pay any business expenses because of the nature of the relationship. So would this individual qualify for the grant that's coming out?
I think yes. They can spend it on, I need to go back and look. There have been so many different sets of rules. It might be that, and so this is the state coronavirus relief funds. And it might be that the only funds that it can be spent on is operating expense, which does not include payroll. So I will have all of that out this week. And I can try to look about that as well. Yes, hi Mike.
Lena, I think they would probably, if they're low income, they would also qualify for the other CDBG funded grant, the micro grants that we're rolling out too, right?
Yeah, and they would qualify for that based on
sure. I mean, 1099 is a sole proprietor. It's just, they're a contractor, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
The fact that they don't have expenses isn't really dispositive. They have to fill out an application for them and justify the need for the money. And we can help them with that, and we'll put their best foot forward. We don't make the decision. The EDCs and their selection committee will review these and make a decision, but we can help them figure out the best pathway forward and sort of advocate on their behalf to get their application put together. And anything we do in that regard for somebody is going to give us opportunities to help strengthen their business. So we look at that as just in an ordinary course of our providing technical support to micro businesses. So we'd welcome the opportunity to help that person. You should refer them to us. And Micah's not on the call, but Micah would be the person that would grab them and sit down with them on the phone or the Zoom and start working through the process of helping them put the application together.
Okay.
So there are two different grant programs, and what Mike's talking about is the one where you have to show, and it's your current income, or we can use 2019 income, but is less than 80% of the area median income for your household size. So it's a bit confusing, and thank goodness that we have CIE and Micah who will walk through all these issues with people. And we're going to try to get everybody that wants to apply to work with Micah, and it'll be a good length of a window to apply so that Micah has plenty of time to work with, get appointments set up and work with each applicant individually. Probably maybe 2 or 3 weeks, we'll have the window open. Then there's the other program, the state program that will roll out after the CDBG program. And CDBG is Community Development Block Grants that comes from HUD, Housing and Urban Development. And they've created so many different hoops to jump through. It's very difficult funding to receive. But then the state funding, the $145,000, which is almost twice the size of the CDBG program, is much easier to apply for. And that's the one where it's not income threshold limited. It is 10 businesses or fewer, or 10 employees or fewer. And that's where if you've received not a SBA type grant or loan, but rather one of our, like Keeping the Lights On, Olympic Farmer, Working Washington One, or those type of SWIM, Small Business Relief Fund, one of those smaller localized grant programs, then you will not, people that haven't received those will be looked at first in the first priority. And then if there's additional funding remaining, then we'll review those that have received funding in the past. So we're trying to, dig through the drawers and find people and businesses that haven't heard about this, and really try to expand the folks that have, make sure that more folks are aware of this. And we're really going to try to target the restaurants that haven't applied, event planners, fitness centers, our bowling alleys pretty much have applied, but caterers, those businesses that are really, really affected. I'm seeing construction is doing quite well. So, we're going to use some metrics that that give more points to businesses that continue to be strongly affected by the governor's orders. The other thing that I wanted to share and make sure, especially the folks that work with other businesses know about, is a provider relief fund. Amy Conkle, who now works with us, we're very excited to have Amy on board with us. She has been working and explaining this to businesses. It is for so it's 2 groups of businesses. One, and it's $175 billion. It's a lot of money that is available for this. So it's for any entity that has provided dental services. So regardless, if you have provided dental services, you can qualify for 2% of your gross income from 2019. So that doesn't sound like that much, but if you had a bunch of employees and you were bringing in $3 million a year, then, and again, it's the gross number, then that's a $60,000 grant that you get from HUD. And the application deadline is August 28th. So I'm going to get that out today about that. So that's for dentists. But Amy, I believe, has called every single dentist in the county. So thank you for Amy. That's been her primary work focus since she came on board. Welcome. Get on the phone and call dentists. And so, but then it's also providers, any provider that has accepted Medicare or Medicaid also qualifies. So Amy, do you want to speak to any of that? Do you want to add anything there? So if you took Medicare or Medicaid payments in 2019 or 18, generally that's the case, that's the rule. You also qualify for the 2%.
That's correct. Yeah. And I did call some other people. There was some physical therapists and massage therapists, and I'm working my way through. There's still a couple days. They really hit it on their HHS website. So I'm helping people with their emails and stuff, trying to get them logged in there.
Okay, so your optometrists and anybody that took can you shoot me off that information? Since I'm out of town, I'm not going to be able to get in touch with one of my clients, but I sure would like to find out what we have to do to file it before the 28th.
Do you want to share your email address and I'll send you the link?
Amy, do you want to put the link to the application in the chat?
I'll do that right now.
I'll copy it out of the chat.
Okay. I'll put it in the chat as well too, just in case.
So Colleen, I actually completed one of these applications yesterday. They significantly changed the application form and simplified it. And so there's a lot less detail that is required. It also would count for mental health and chemical dependency.
Yes.
And initially, pardon?
Providers.
Yeah, providers. Mental health providers and chemical dependency providers. And initially, it was only based on the Medicaid dollar amount, but they changed it to gross, it looks like, total. Yeah. And they extended the deadline to September 16th.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah, so.
Great.
Yeah. I believe it's September 16th, but you might want to double check on that. I'm pretty sure.
Double check, because that means I can call more people.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was after September 15th for sure, because that's a big deadline for me. But so I just want you to know, before you spend a lot of time calculating up those numbers, make sure you look at the new application.
Okay.
Colleen, I want to make sure I wrap my brain around what are the requirements for this. When you say providers, that seems, dentists for sure. We have one dentist client that we'll reach out to, but what else does that include?
So on that link, that if you go to the chat box, there's a link there that has information on it, and it shows all the different, it's basically, if you have accepted Medicare or Medicaid as a provider in 2018 or 19,
I see.
You qualify. So there's a long list of entities that, types of businesses. And Amy is making phone calls, going through Yelp and, Google to find providers in our county, to include massage therapists. And we are putting it on the Choose Clallam Facebook page, and we're boosting that so it gets out to as broad of an audience as possible. That's something Peggy's working on. And that's great news if they've extended the deadline. I think Congress, if you look at the amount of funding that went to state and local governments across the United States, that was $150 billion. And this program is $175 billion. So significantly more. And I don't think, and the local government money is, a huge demand for that. Mm-hmm. But the provider funds, they have not been able to distribute, but only a small percentage of that so far.
So is a requirement that they actually have been a Medicaid, Medicare provider, or that they could be?
No, they had to have already been, unless they were a dentist. If they were a dentist, they don't ever have to have accepted it before. And I see from Rick that the distribution funding has been extended until September 13th, 2020. So we'll be a blast email about that today. And
I'm putting
then,
it on the website right now too.
okay, thank you. Thank you, Amy.
You're welcome.
So,
We'll want to sync up with Amy about that and see and lend our shoulder to the oar too. Because a lot of folks we work with, I think, fall in that category. They're micro enterprises. A lot of them are sole proprietors or really small businesses. And
yep.
We've got many people like that that we're currently serving and people that we would like to serve and reach out to. So this is a great opportunity for us. So I'll make sure Micah talks to Amy. They're next door to each other, so that's easy to do.
That's right. That's right. So I wanted to share some analysis that I did. I think I sent it out to a few people, but it's basically an analysis of funding that has been distributed to it's coronavirus relief funds. Also, we received information on PPP loans and how many loans per county. It's kind of heavy in data, but I think it tells a story, and I wanted to share that. So if you guys don't mind, I'm going to do that here in just a moment. Here we go. So let me try to share my screen. There, and there. Okay. So can you guys see this? Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we can.
So this is the, I've got several tabs in this, but what this is shows, here's the coronavirus relief funds. That's the state received in total $2.95 billion. And I think I'll go to this actually. This is $2.95 billion that the state received, and the state has allocated the funding. Actually, the way it worked is that if a population had more than 500,000, then the U.S. Treasury Department distributed the funds directly. And the intention was that a state would keep 55%, and the remaining 45% would go to local governments. But the federal government distributed the funds to populations with more than 500,000. And so that meant there were 4 counties, King, Pierce, Snohomish, and Spokane counties, and then the city of Seattle was more than 500,000. And so the federal government distributed that directly. And then the remaining amount, the state distributed, of which they distributed 297 million of that. And I've mentioned before that I was frustrated that the governor was not distributing the remaining 45%. It should have been close to $1 billion, and he's only distributed 297 million of it. So I looked at this based on, I got information from the Office of Financial Management. That's the governor, that's who's distributing the funding, and what they say our population estimates are. And then how much has been funded, and either I got this from the Treasury site or the Office of Financial Management, their site, and then looked at what is the ranking of each county. And as you can see, Spokane received per person $195 per person. And then Pierce 190, King 190, Snohomish 190. And then you scroll down here, Clallam's down here, we only received $66 per person. So the larger counties have received 3 times the amount that we have. So again, I compiled a lot of this as we're asking the governor to help keep Blackball afloat, because, and you know, one of the arguments I'm making is that, hey, we haven't at all received our fair share. Rural counties just have not. So that, and then this is a look at the PPP funds. So they provided the amount of funds that were received by county, and then they extended it. And I said it was somewhere between 70 million and 100 million because they didn't specify exactly how much the larger loans were because they specified which businesses received those loans. So in total, Clallam County of PPP loans that covered payroll received 79 million, just a little over $79 million. So, you know, that's great. And this is, I've ranked this by, let's see. Oh, this is just alphabetical listing here, but we were let's see. This is, from Department of Revenue, I grabbed information. I worked with them, asked them what's the best, you know, can you tell us how many sole proprietors, partnerships, corporation, any type of business entity, you know, where's that information? They provided me the link to that. And so we have 6,742 entities that are excise tax payers, or, you know, they refer to them as businesses. Either they pay B&O tax, sales tax, something. And so we had 1,147 PPP loan applicants, and so 17% of the businesses. So we're number 18 in the state. And then by size of business, or by size of loan, the average loan size was about 69,000, which if you go back to here, this is that is the tier. So in either top tier is bright green, then lower green, second, middle, yellow is fourth tier, or basically like the bottom 40%, and the kind of reddish color is the bottom 20%. So anyway, so we had a lot of smaller loans, which makes sense. We don't have a lot of big companies. And then again, population estimates. So by population, we were the 23rd out of 39 counties. And then average loan amount per excise. So if we just want to look at the base, what was the average loan amount based on the number of businesses we had in our county, we were 29th. So anyway, then I rolled all this together. And also, I think you've heard me before talk about the fact that I wasn't supportive of the way the Department of Commerce allocated the Working Washington funds. We did not receive, they did a threshold amount. So there were a lot, and I can go over here and look at that. Here we go. Let's see. Here, this is alphabetical again, but this is the Working Washington funds. They gave a threshold amount of 317,000, regardless of the size of your population in that county. So for example, Garfield County that only has 2,000 people, they got the threshold of 317,000. So it was $142 per person. And then Clallam County, whoops, alphabetical, Clallam, you know, we have 76,000 people in our county. And so we only receive $4.73 per person. So, you know, I'm not liking the way they're doing that allocation. So anyway, that is, and then I combined all these things between the coronavirus relief funds that were distributed to counties and cities, the Working Washington money, and the PPP loan. Of course, the PPP loan, the state had nothing really to do with. That was an individual's decision whether they would apply or not. but our county in total, we were 25 out of 39 counties. We're in the bottom 20% of receiving coronavirus relief funds. We're in the bottom 20% of receiving Working Washington money. We were in the top 40 for, or the top half basically for PPP loans. And then, so in total, we're, 25 out of 9 in the state. So, not, the governor's still holding on to another $1 billion right now, and trying to decide how to allocate that. And I did this, and I've been providing it to Commerce to say, you need to look at, how you've distributed these funds thus far and make it more equitable. So that's something I'm sharing with AWC and Washington, WASAC, and I've shared it with Josh, and I see Josh Weiss is on the line here. So hopefully, I don't know, Josh, do you think we have a shot in hell of making any impact? I know Commerce was really surprised by this.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, excellent. Good morning, everyone. Sorry, I'm driving. I'm not sure. I mean, there's so many different factors in these different programs that are sort of all working together to result in this outcome, right? Like on the CARES Act funding, the fact that the 5 biggest jurisdictions in the state received direct appropriations or direct allocations, was purely a function of Congress, and that so that sort of distinction between smaller not even smaller, but large, medium, and small jurisdictions, and in the biggest jurisdictions is a construct that's kind of out of our hands. I think the piece that is good and still has possibility is on the remainder of the CARES funding, where the governor's office does have basically the say on how they distribute those monies within the jurisdictions, the smaller jurisdictions. And just so you know, and I'm not sure if the commissioners are on, but WASAC is saying at this point, as of last week, that the governor's office is getting pretty close to making another round of distributions. It's a little unclear what pretty close means. I think they were thinking within, the next week or several days. And then the other thing that they're doing that has been really a problem for jurisdictions has been that they have to have had the funds spent or committed by October 31st. And it sounds like the governor's office is going to push that out till maybe December 1st. So that'll provide some additional time to work with the new money that's coming out. I do know that there's been a pretty significant conversation going on about how different jurisdictions have spent the money. The governor's office and the chairs of the fiscal committees in the House and the Senate have been asked for and have been receiving just early this week information from specific jurisdictions about what they've done with the dollars. And I know that there is some frustration that more money hasn't been spent on public health response. So I guess my sense from that is that there could be some policy change about what types of things the governor's office really wants to see those dollars spent on. So we could see some, I guess, circling back around to your question, it makes me think that there is the possibility of things being different in the second round. Though I'm not sure, this argument about equity, I'm not sure if they are going to care significantly about that or if it's going to be primarily focused on getting the money out to public health. So that is what I know, and happy to answer any questions if any of that didn't make sense, which I wouldn't be surprised because I'm not an awesome multitasker.
Well, thanks, Josh. What about for counties that have spent significant amounts on, and I don't know if our county would fall into that, but if a county has spent a significant amount on public health, then are they going to say X amount per, population, or have some kind of metric like that? Or will it just be, here's more money, you have to spend it on public health needs?
My impression is, and again, take this for what it is, which is an impression, is that they probably will carve off some portion off the top that will go directly to public health. That's not to say that there won't be additional dollars coming out for general coronavirus response, but it sounds like they're going to have some go directly to the health districts. But again, I could be wrong about that, and they could go a different direction.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Colleen,
Yes.
this morning I received an email from ESD regarding a new $25 million pot of money that has been set aside for employers to apply for to offset their experience rating from the coronavirus hit. Do you want me to forward that to you?
Sure. That was something that the legislature approved when they were in session earlier this year. And people have been sending letters, or you're supposed to apply for it. And so I know people have been doing that, but that would be great. We'll put that out. Again, it's not that much money.
That was one of our concerns when we first started, as to, all these people being on unemployment, what the experience rating was going to be going forward. So at least they've responded to that part of it. Josh,
you're very, well, I know Bruce Beckett is really in the middle of all this, and you work with him regularly. Do you have any more insights to add to this topic by chance as you're driving?
I don't. I'm sorry. I have not heard any of the details about this, but I do think Bruce could know. Yeah.
I do know that that your experience rating is reevaluated beginning in January 1st, and then you would pay the higher amount in April. But and there is some talk about. And there was a request from a lot of different entities that the $1 billion that the governor has from the coronavirus relief funds, that some of that go to the unemployment trust fund account to offset the fact that the only way that you can avoid people having to increase their experience rating would be to, refund that account. And they are talking about getting a loan from the federal government, and that's a 2-year zero interest loan, but they have to pay it back in 2 years. So all that's doing is pushing the problem out 2 years. Lena, do you know more about it?
I actually haven't received any information on how to apply yet. So I'm curious. I don't know that I received that email that you received, Debbie, yet. So I might check that and see if I have an email. But as far as I know, the application process hasn't started yet. I think that the evaluation for the tax rates is actually done before the end of the year. And so it would affect the rates starting January 1, not April. Usually those rates are adjusted, which I don't know if they're doing something different right now, but normally the new rates come out in January for the first quarter.
And then you pay, I guess, by April, I think was the point. And there's a maximum. I've received quite a bit of information on this, and Judy Jones knows a lot about it, and she had a letter, and we've been for different businesses. I know she was having all of her clients submit letters to ESD applying to be part of the $25 million offset. So I can find that and send that to you. But she had the form, and it was online, but they weren't advertising it well.
So I'll look into that, because the last correspondence that I received from Employment Security is that they would let us know that they would send out a notice when the form became available. But yeah, how the experience rating typically works is the amount of claims that have been made on your account divided into your total payroll generates a factor, and that factor is multiplied times your rate to get the adjusted rate. So of course, all of us have been concerned from the beginning of this situation on how that would have, what the impact of that would be on the businesses. There is a maximum rate currently at just over 5%. And my businesses that I work with range from like less than 1% of a rate up to 5%. So for some businesses, it will make a huge impact on their total cost.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been applying for relief of benefit charges for our clients as we get those notices. And initially, Employment Security was sending out notices on every single employee that was making a claim. They stopped doing that after a few weeks, I want to say. And so, but I have seen a few benefits charging notices come in. So it's something we definitely want to stay on top of and be aware of.
So am I correct that when you say 5%, if you look at your payroll report, 5% of that would be a charge to the unemployment trust fund?
Yes.
That's huge.
Yeah, and there's the employment admin fund as well. So there's 2 different rates associated with your unemployment rate, but yeah, and it's greater than 5. I think it's probably like 5.6% or something. So for some employers, now for seasonal employers, it probably won't make a big impact because they probably are at the highest rate anyway, due to the fact that they have, if they have employees that file for unemployment in the off season. So they're going to be at the highest rate. But for employers that don't have a lot of, don't have a high rate, it'll make a big impact if they, if they had unemployment claims during this period. Mm-hmm. Restaurants are really going to be hit hard because typically their rate is pretty low, but in lieu of all of this, most of their employees are filing for unemployment, I would imagine. And so I think that's going to be a huge impact on, and they have a high cost of labor.
Mm-hmm. All right. Is there anything else that folks wanted to talk about this morning? Next week, I've invited Blackball to join us, the owners of Blackball, and kind of talking about what they're seeing for their future and what they're hearing from the Canadian government and the British Columbia provincial government about the border closure and, what expectations are. And basically, there have been all these bailouts for airlines and government ferry systems, but they are a square peg in the round hole. They don't fit into any existing programs. And so they are looking at just, not being open, obviously, until the border reopens, which, according to the Canadian government, will be, maybe mid next year. But then they typically make their money in the summer months. And so if it's just ramping up during those summer months, then they wouldn't be having a positive net operating income. So they could potentially wait until April of 2022 before they reopen. And that economic impact that that transportation public service basically offers to Clallam County is typically worth $64 million of economic impact annually, and about 1,000 jobs are reliant upon Black Ball's transportation services. So, you know, we're really trying to make the case that somehow subsidizing their operations once the Canadian border reopens will help so many businesses. And so we're hoping we can get some support somewhere for that. But I think it's a big uphill battle to get any federal funding for one business to be included in a congressional authorization and appropriation. So we'll be talking about that on next Wednesday. And if any of you guys have any ideas of folks you'd love for us to have on, besides Carrie Hurd from the SBA, let me know and we will see if we can get them to join us.
Hey, Colleen.
Yes.
Since you were kind enough to send me the PDN article at 3 o'clock this morning about the debate yesterday between the two PUD candidates and point out an error in there and so forth, I thought I would mention that briefly. There's some mention in there about the Public Power Council. And, you know, there was a big, hoopla here back a few months ago because we got thrown out of it because of me allegedly doing some stuff. But what I'd like to do is, Rick has made Pascal has made the argument that we're not at the table for these contract negotiations and rate setting and all this kind of stuff. And let me just say this, that the Public Power Council has a very limited role in all that. You know, they're a large organization. They have a lot of PUDs from Montana to Oregon and so forth. And actually, they're not a good fit for us. There's another group that we belong called the Western Policy Agency Group. And they're a smaller group that we work with. In fact, we've got a call tomorrow and we get into this. But I think more importantly, this whole rate setting business, these contracts with BPA that, will be put in place in 2028, that's all public process. Anybody can go to that and make comments, and that's how you do it. You don't sit down at a table and negotiate with BPA. That's a misnomer. What they do is they have public meetings and people apply, they ask questions, or you can submit questions and they respond to them, and they whittle through that over the course of a year. And so our PUD is actively involved in that. I'm actively involved. In fact, there's a BPA conference going on today and tomorrow and so forth on rate setting and so forth that I participate in. So anyway, I don't want people to think that your PUD is not part of this process. We definitely are. And actually the PPC was, and what was annoying for me as a commissioner is you go to these public meetings, you get this public information, PPC touches it, sends it to us, and then claims it's confidential. Then I can't talk about it to with my other two commissioners or to the public. Now that's crazy. We pay for that. And that information, and it's public information to start with. And in fact, the other groups we work with, like WAPAG, they encourage us to just, take the information that they get from Bonneville Power or the Corps of Engineers and send it out to their membership. They say, that's what you're paying us to do. So we encourage you to disseminate this information. But PPC is upset because we were questioning some of the information, their interpretation of BPA information and so forth. And so they just took this as an opportunity to dump us, which actually saved me the trouble of doing it myself. There are much better associations that we should be investing in, and that's what we're doing. Thanks.
Great. Does anybody have any questions for Commissioner Waddell about this issue? I know it becomes super technical.
Yes, it is.
Mm-hmm.
I sent you a sample if you want to just scroll down with the link that I sent you this morning.
Okay. So Colleen Robinson, how are things going with affordable housing? and your Habitat for Humanity project?
We are doing well. Our build class just wrapped up last Friday. So for 7 weeks, we had 4 students on site, all of which say they'll be back to volunteer. So that's good. We're struggling budget-wise with the increase of materials. OSB is up to $27 a sheet. So actually plywood is less expensive now than OSB, and that's just a matter of the supply chain and the shutdown from Corona. We're opening up family selection, and we're gonna start building 2 more houses in January. So we're very excited about that, and we are actively pursuing and looking for land in Sequim. We haven't built in Sequim since 2009. And want to be doing some building there because our Maloney Heights in Port Angeles will probably be built out in the next 2 years. So lots of good stuff going on. If anybody knows of any land for sale, give me a call.
I saw in the paper that the city of Sequim is considering reviewing their building fees.
Mm-hmm.
So are you a part of that, I assume?
I was originally when it was the housing ad hoc. I have not been called back since that City of Sequim housing ad hoc group shut down, but would love to be a part of the conversations. Thanks.
So hi, Brown Maloney. Brown is the owner of Pacific Radio, Inc., and KOMP, of course, and 3 different radio stations, as I recall. And how are things going in your world, Brown?
Well, doing fine, Colleen. Really haven't been able to participate much, but just a couple of times. Thank you. The radio station is actually doing pretty good. We're tracking now pretty close to revenues. One thing that's really helped is we've had something in August called New Client Month to try to get people, new people on the air. Of course, one of our stations is relatively new yet and still building a customer base, which is in Port Angeles, KZQM. A couple of fun things we've done just this last month. I have to say, too, both were my ideas. They don't generate any revenue, but it is kind of more goodwill. As you know, we didn't do the fair. A lot of things haven't happened this year. But we decided to have a little promotion called the No Fair Fair. And so just promotions, reminding people that, for example, the week of the fair, because with everybody, a fair is a good time, whether you're 8 or 80. I mean, it's summer, it's short sleeves, it's out and about, it's seeing people. So we kind of wanted to help put smiles on people's face, if you will. And so that was a fun little promotion. And then the other promotion that we did that I've been keenly aware of for a long time, Colleen, is Canada, talking about the coho. In fact, I hope to be here next week because I'm really feeling for the coho and also the ripple effect on the overall economy, symbolically and everything. But much of our listenership, they don't bring any revenue to us, but we have an awful lot of listeners across the water in Canada. And so we wanted to recognize that. And we ran some house ads, if you will, some PSAs on all 3 stations, recognizing the folks in Canada, saying, hey, we know you're there. We know you listen to us. We see the lights on at night. We're neighbors. Thank you for listening. We realize our waterways are closed right now, but our airwaves are not closed. In fact, those ads are still running. The fair is, of course, over, but those ads you still hear once in a while. And just wanted to give recognition to the folks on the other side that do listen to us, and they do. Just like all of us. I mean, we all channel surf, including myself. We'll listen to a radio station, a country western station in Victoria, or an easy listening station, or whatever. They listen to us. So that was kind of a fun thing to do. But we're doing fine. Thank you.
Good to hear. Well, anyone want to share how things are going in their world? If not, it's really close to 9 here. So I think we can call it a morning and everybody can get on with their day. Thank you so much for joining us today. And if you have any ideas of folks you'd like to hear from, please let me know. Thanks very much, everyone. Bye.
Thanks.